Professor Grover, sir, can we start? Sir requested to wait for a minute.
I've started the stream, so
So we are just waiting for the resource person to join with us. Good morning, dear participants. Hope you were watching us. And at this moment, we are going to start the third day of our interdisciplinary refresher course on curriculum and pedagogy. So I hope that you all have watched the pre-recorded sessions that were shared in the last 2 days. And today, the last pre-recorded session, we will give some assignments to you so that you will engage yourself in hands-on activities. So if there is any problem, any difficulty or any issues you find, then let us know in our Telegram group as well as in classroom. So can we, sir, start our session now? Professor Grover, sir?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So
Yeah, sure.
on behalf of Teaching Learning Center, myself, Swapna Bora, would like to welcome you, sir, to our interdisciplinary refresher course on curriculum and pedagogy. Our participants are right now watching on YouTube live streaming, and they will join with us at the last 15 minutes to interact with you. So let us just give us 1 second to introduce you before the participants. Professor Sandeep Grover has obtained a bachelor's degree in engineering, master's degree in technology, and PhD in the field of quality management. He has authored about more than 100 papers in national and international journals and conferences. He guides research at postgraduate and doctorate levels, and his research areas include TQM, manufacturing quality, education quality, and application of MADM approaches. He is associated with different regulatory bodies for quality-related activities. He has also delivered expert lectures in various institutions in the country on the topics related to quality management in manufacturing, education quality, research and paper writing, application of draft theoretical approach in various fields, etc. He has held various post charges in parent institutions, including that of Vice Chancellor, Registrar, Dean, Head of the Department. With more than 3 decades of experience, he is currently working as Professor of Mechanical Engineering at JC Bose University of Science and Technology. So we are very glad to welcome you, sir, to our center for this session. And I would like to request you to start your session on outcome-based education. Sir, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you. A very good morning to all of you. It's nice to be with you all people from different parts of the country and from different areas. So I will be just giving my views in general on the outcome-based education, since I have been told that you people are from different disciplines, across engineering, management, sciences, arts. So let me share my screen. I hope it is visible.
Yes, sir, it is visible.
now my PPT?
Yes, sir.
So, so dear colleagues, so during this session on the outcome-based education, primarily I will be moving like this. We'll just talk about some introduction to outcome-based education, some background to it, how it has come, what is the difference between output-based education and outcome-based education, what is the importance of OB in terms of our regulatory bodies, in terms of the UGC, NBA, NAC, and other such bodies. What is the background of this system when we are talking about the Bloom's taxonomy? Then we will talk about the hierarchical structure, starting from the vision, mission, and down to the course outcomes. We'll just have a glance about the vision and mission statements, then how to write down the objectives and the outcomes. I have got some examples to show you from various fields, and then how do you map the structure, and then we will talk about one methodology about the attainment of the course outcomes and the program outcomes with the help of a case study. So let us start with this. Every program, whether you talk about a diploma program or a UG program, maybe PG program, in any discipline, it has got certain objectives that we intend to achieve as the outcomes. So it can be across the discipline, it can be MBBS program, it can be MBA program or BTech program. We set out with certain set of objectives that are the statements which describe what a learner is expected to achieve as a result of instruction and tend to describe discrete units of knowledge and skill. Whereas when I talk about outcomes, it is the broad behavior what your student is expected at the end of the program. That can be knowledge, that can be skill, or that can be behavioral aspect. Now we will always say that objectives and outcomes are very closely related to each other, because on the basis of the set out objectives, you need to achieve the outcomes. Like in the whole say program of maybe of 3 years or 4 years or 2 years, whatever activity we are doing, that need to be connected to objectives and the outcomes. It can be anything. It can be your cultural programs also. It can be your industry visit also, some expert lectures also, faculty development program also. So anything you do out of that has to be linked to your objectives and the outcomes. Now, when I talk about outcomes, immediately comes to my mind is the output. What is the difference between the output-based system and the outcome-based system? Because in our education also now we are talking about the outcome-based education. So when we are only talking about the marks, we are only talking about the assessment through the marks, through the examination, through the quizzes, through the test, and we give a sort of percentage to the students, that is the output. But when I talk beyond the output, I also talk about those attributes which are essential for our students to compete in the outside world. It can be leadership traits, it can be teamwork, it can be communication skill, it can be some skills. So all those things, when you incorporate, it becomes an outcome-based accreditation or an outcome-based system. Say for example, if I make a statement that 70% of my students have obtained more than 80% marks, or if I say that the result of my class is say 75%, 75% students have passed. So that is output-based statement. I am not talking about the other skills, other behavioral aspects, other values that they're having. So just by saying that my result is 90% or so, over a period of time, you also must have heard, talking that our graduates are not employable. So that means there is something beyond output that we need to have so as to help our students to compete in the outside world. Now, if I make a statement that 70% of my students have obtained required knowledge, required skill, required behavioral aspects, which are required to compete in the outside world or in the industry, that is outcome-based statement. So now we are more concerned about the outcome. So we must know what are the expected outcomes. So not only in terms of the students, this slide is little more explanatory in terms of, we can talk about faculty background also. We can talk about the faculty research also. So just saying that somebody is having 80 publications or 100 publications is just a number. So you need to talk about, out of these publications, how many of them are in Scopus, how many of them are in Web of Science, what is the citation index, what is H index. So those things primarily are talking about the qualitative aspect also. So it is not only numbers, we have to talk beyond the numbers. So that is what is the outcome-based education. So now in outcome-based education, for any program, we need to define up that what are the objectives, what are the expected outcomes, and accordingly, what is primarily required to be given to the students so that now they are able to compete. Now, there is a lot of importance of this outcome-based education, even in our regulatory bodies. So if I talk about All India Council for Technical Education, AICT, that is including all the technical related courses, professional courses. It has also included course outcomes in the model curriculum that was given by them in 2018, and also in the exam reforms policy, which was again released sometime around in 18 end only. So it has very beautifully covered that how are the verbs of the Bloom's taxonomy to be used in the question papers. How do you assess that at what level the learning is to be given and at what level the assessment is. So that OBE system is already embedded in the curriculum there. Similarly, UGC has given a learning outcome based curriculum framework, which we call as LOCF, and it has given its templates, or you can say recommendations, for various programs in the arts. We talk about BSc is there, for BA it is there, for I think BA JMC journalism is there, law it is there, Sanskrit it is there. So they have given recommendations in these terms, where as a template they have provided what could be the objectives, what could be the learning outcomes, how they are mapped with each other, and what are the course outcomes for each courses. So what I want to stress upon is that the importance of this OBE system is there, and this is also one of the mandates of NEP 2020, the National Education Policy 2020. It also talks about this concept that we have to embed all these things in our system now. Similarly, National Medical Commission, formerly NCI, it has also recommended a competency-based curriculum covering the Bloom's taxonomy, actionable verbs, and levels of competency. So very beautifully, it is given that what should be the level of competency. Rather, it is given chapter-wise, not as subject-wise. It is given chapter-wise also. So if you happen to see that booklet of NMC regarding their MBBS curriculum, so we'll see that how fine this OBE has been covered over there also. Similarly, PCI has covered this, Pharmacy Council of India, and our two accreditation bodies, that is the NAC, which is giving accreditation to the institutions as a whole. It also covers the formulation and attainment of the outcomes. Similarly, NBA has also talked about the outcome-based accreditation framework, and I am going to show you some of their slides also, that how this complete OBE system is primarily talking about this, and be talking about this OBE system, right? Now, when I talk about, if time permits, I am going to show you some of these manuals also of the different regulatory bodies. Now, the objectives, whenever we talk about, they should be specific, they should be measurable, they should be achievable, they should be realistic and time bound. That means when you set out to write down these objectives, you have to be very, very crystal clear that what actually are your objectives, and they should be realistic. You should be able to achieve them in a time period of the program. Say for BTech program 4 years, or maybe for MBA programs 2 years. So those must be measurable, those must be achievable, and you must be able to assess them over a period of time, that whether they have been attained or not in terms of the outcomes. So when you write down outcomes, it is something like beginning with end in mind. That means you are beginning with these objectives, but yes, that at the end of this particular program of 2 years or 3 years or 4 years, you would be able to achieve this, and your students will be able to work upon these things. So for any program in any institution, it can be medical, it can be medicine, it can be engineering, arts, sciences, education. It is desirable to have objectives and outcomes at various levels. So at institute level, you have vision mission, then at the department level, then at the program level, and then for each course, you must have the course outcomes in the curriculum. Okay. So goals and objectives and outcomes, they look like as if they are synonyms, but actually they are not. We are more concerned in this part about the objectives and the outcomes, but yes, with a goal in mind. Okay, so goal is presently primarily something which is the end result, the expected end result, and it can be achieved through a series of objectives. So when I talk about the goal, it is something like point oriented, single point oriented, and objectives can be set of objectives. So when you play a game of hockey or football, you only say goal when the ball passes through the 2 poles. So that is a point. But objectives can be many, and then you are direction oriented. You got multiple objectives so that you are able to achieve your goal. And this is something which you get at the end. They're called expected outcomes. So the statements what a student will know or be able to do if she or he has learned everything in the course or session. So that means you are imparting knowledge, you are teaching various subjects, various labs. So what a student will know is one thing, and be able to do means what is the application part he or she is going to learn, and the result of the program operations or activities or effects produced by the program. So not only the program, but even the overall effects that have been produced over the program, by the program, maybe over a period of time. And as I told you, they are to be mapped with the objectives or maybe cumulative result of the objective. So 2 or 3 objectives can lead to a single outcome, or it can be vice versa also. Now, when I talk about all these things, the background to all these things is Bloom's taxonomy. Holistically, in our educational system, we are working primarily in 3 domains. We can talk about affective domain, psychomotor domain, or the cognitive domain. Affective domain is when we are dealing with the development in the areas in the emotions and attitudes. Psychomotor is eye-hand movement, primarily the eye-hand movement, and cognitive is the knowledge part. So those institutions which are working in the affective domain are one set. Those institutions which are working in the psychomotor domain is eye-hand movement. So maybe the institutions like ITI, maybe the institutions like where you learn how to play harmonium, how to play tabla. So those are dealing with the psychomotor domain, and cognitive domain is where we all are working primarily, the intellectual part, the knowledge part. So all these 3 domains are not independent of each other. There is an amount of overlapping. You cannot say that in cognitive domain there is no part of psychomotor domain or vice versa. Of course, in the parent domain, major part will be of that domain, and of course you want your students to learn everything. So some part of affective domain has to be there. Behavioral aspects are to be embedded, and some skill part is to be given when you talk about this. Okay. Now, in all these three domains, you will find that there are different levels of learning. So that means we are not learning abruptly, directly to the highest level. We are primarily learning in small different levels, and then over a period of time we want to reach at the top. Now these levels are, say, from the lowest level to the highest level of learning. So now these levels that I am showing you is as per the Bloom's taxonomy, the original one, and it is for the cognitive domain. So you will be surprised that knowledge is the lowest level of learning. From the knowledge, go to the comprehension, then the application part, analysis, synthesis, and finally the evaluation part. Knowledge is nothing but remembering of previously learned material. Recall the fact, that is called knowledge. So if somebody remembers, then say who is the Prime Minister of UK? That is knowledge. What is the capital of Spain? That is knowledge. So knowledge is just remembering whatever you have learned. So that is the first level of learning. A student in engineering, say for example, comes to a workshop for the first time in the first year. What is the first thing you tell to the student? That see, these are different machines, and he or she might not have seen in lifetime till then a lathe machine or maybe a milling machine. So what will the first thing you will say? That see, this is called a lathe machine and this is called a milling machine. So that is knowledge. Then is the ability to grasp the meaning of knowledge being learned, comprehension, then application. Then you are going to tell them what are the various parts, what are the various functions of various parts, and how application can be done. Then the analysis, synthesis, and the evaluation. So these are various levels of learning. So during a program, we are teaching many subjects, many courses, and it is not that each course is going to all the 6 levels. No, there may be most of the courses which are only up to level 3, level 1, level 2, and level 3, or at some higher levels there may be something like up to level 4 or level 5, or maybe if you are working in a research area, some specific research area, or maybe PhD, you may go to evaluation level also. Now all these different levels are primarily correlated with certain verbs in the cognitive domain, with certain action verbs. So for example, if I am using words like define, distinguish, identify, so that means I am talking about knowledge. So as a teacher, when I am sitting a question paper, I normally use these types of words. So when I am using these types of words, that means I am only asking my students questions of level 1 only. Similarly, when I use the words like, say, illustrate with the help of examples, that means I am moving to a little higher level comprehension. Or it can be, something like, say, application part, apply, or say calculate. So then I am going to a little higher level, and similarly go to the highest level of the evaluation. So the word validate in the evaluation part, you use the word validate when someone is doing research. Then you ask that whether you have validated your results. So that means it is something which he or she has developed, and now you are asking that whether it has been validated in the say field or not. So these words are again not. This is not the fixed list. There is some amount of overlapping, and all these levels are basically in general for various cognitive domains. They are not particular only for management or engineering or sciences. They can be used in various disciplines, across the disciplines. These can be used. But yes, the importance is that these are the words which you have to now use when you are writing down the course outcomes. Because when you write down the course outcomes, you will write a statement. Say for example, at the end of the course, a student would be able to calculate, say for example, design load. So when you use these words in your course outcomes, there also these words will show you that what type of learning you want to impart to your students in the coming semester. And same is what you are doing with their testing part. So these words are very important. We'll see further when we are talking about the course outcomes also. Okay. So we talked about cognitive domain. So these are the levels of learning from the affective domain, so that we are not similarly in the psychomotor domain. Say perception is something in the psychomotor domain which is at a level, action based level. Say when a fielder is standing at the boundary, and when he or she assesses that where ball is going to come, and then moves the hands, that is perception. When you are typing something on the keyboard and you don't see towards keyboard, you know that where is the QWERTY key, that is perception. When someone is playing tabla and he or she does not look downwards to the harmonium, that is called perception. So, and these are some of the levels of psychomotor domain, and this is what is the new version of the Bloom's taxonomy. So this you will also find in the exam reform policy of AICT. So the exactly similar to the previous one, the various levels: remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. Okay, so we have talked about this taxonomy, Bloom's taxonomy, and we also discussed in between what is the importance of these. So different levels of learning can be imparted. You use them in the course outcomes, and of course, different levels, higher order thought in the students were building up from the lower level. So this I just picked up from one of the NBA documents, just to tell you that how importance is given to, say, for example, in various criteria. So this total NBA accreditation, which is for the UG engineering, which is for 1,000 marks, you find that number one talks about PEOs, program education objectives. Number three also directly talks about course outcomes and program outcomes. Similarly, number 7 talks about the continuous improvement. So what I mean to say is that apart from them, there are various other criteria in this, in which you will find that importance of OBE. So this is for UG engineering program, maybe for MBA, again similar things are there. Similarly for diploma programs, similar things are there. So that means the importance of the accreditation part is there. Similarly, when you talk about NAC accreditation, the very first question of the criteria one of the NAC manual, it talks about this outcome-based education, the concept of COPOs, and of course there are questions in criteria 2 also, which 2.5 I think, which talk about how do you assess these course outcomes and the program outcomes, how they are available at your university website, institution website, and so on. Fine. So let me skip this part. This somebody else might be taking. And let me directly come to the hierarchical structure when you talk about OB. So we have got starting from the vision mission, which is at the institution level or maybe at the departmental level, and they are to be correlated. Then you have got program education objectives, or you have got objectives of the program, or maybe the aims of the program. Sometimes you use those terminology also. Then what are the program outcomes and what are the program learning outcomes? That means at the end of this program. Similarly, for each course, that is for each subject, you got course outcomes that we are going to see some of them. Then there has to be mapping between some parts, say for example COPO mapping, and then whatever you have done, how do you assess that whether it has been attained or not? So that is another important part of OBE, that CO attainment and the PO attainment, how it is being done. So we will just touch that part also. So this is how there is a some amount of correlation between the PEOs, POs, COs, and you see that right starting with the mission, you got PEOs, and based on the graduate attributes, GAs, you got program outcomes, and then we need to map these COs with the PEOs. So you need to develop all these things, vision, mission statements, objectives, outcomes at program level and at the course level. So this is something which is a cross-function relationship. When you talk about, say, institution vision mission, it is at institute level, so it can be taken care by AQAC or by other similar body. Similarly, you have department vision mission and PEOs and POs. When I say PEOs or POs, it can be objectives and learning outcomes also, which are at the program level, and they can be taken care by the department advisory board, TAB, or maybe the program assessment committee, or maybe the program coordinator. I mean, it depends that if there are a number of programs in a particular department. Similarly, the course outcomes. Similarly, the course outcomes are at the course level, and the course coordinator has to take care of all these things. Okay, and all this is only possible when there is a stakeholders, when there is a stakeholders interaction. That means you need to take, say for example, feedback from the alumni, feedback from the student, and then you need to take feedback from students, teachers, feedback from the industry, feedback from the employers. So all these things are to be embedded when you take this. So this is a systematic procedure, So not much talking on this because I hope all you institute they have got vision mission statements, and vision, which is a shared dream, a dream for an institution. So what we want to look like, and when we reach over there, so to achieve that vision, you need to have certain mission statements, and the vision and mission are correlated and co-created through a collaborative process. So involvement of all the stakeholders, and when you make the vision mission of the department, it has to be derived from the vision mission of the institution. And of course, you focus on your area of department, and normally it should be followed by the SWOT analysis or the SWOT analysis: strength, weaknesses, opportunities, and the concerns. Just some of the examples. I will quickly go through them. Vision mission, vision statement of an institution, which is the engineering institution, to produce highly skilled, trained, competent, and confident professionals, having passion for technology with positive attitude, self-respect. Likewise, this is a mission statement for an institution. So to achieve that vision, you need to write down certain statements, which you call as the vision statement. This is a vision statement of the department, mission statement of a department. I hope most of us are having all these things now. Just I will go through them. Just an example of vision mission of, say, MBA program: to be leading management institution that contributes to development of business and society through excellence in. Then mission statement for such institution. Okay, and then maybe the vision mission for a medical college. So what exactly are your shared dreams, and how do you intend to achieve them? So when you write down these PEOs or the say objectives, so they are generally the statements in terms of the PEOs, which can 3, 4, 5, or maybe more in numbers. And when you write down program outcomes, these are some narrower statements. That means you are focusing on what a student is, will be able to do at the end of the program or by the time of graduation. So PEOs, they normally relate to the skills, the knowledge, and the behavioral aspects. Similarly, PSOs are the specific POs. So these PSOs we are specifically talking only in the engineering program. So what are those specific areas where you want your students to excel? And course outcomes are nothing but they are the statements for the particular subject what the student should be able to do at the end of the course. The concept of PEOs and POs has come from Abbott, and we are now incorporating in our system. And when you write down objectives, generally you answer these questions: who is involved in this, what are the desired outcomes, how this program is to be performance or the progress is to be measured, what is the identified area of success, and when the outcome is going to occur. Now, if I talk about any engineering program, these are the broad things that you want any engineering program should have. It can be electrical or it can be any engineering program. Technical knowledge is one important thing that you want to impart to your graduates. Technical skills, you want that your students must have skill. Then computer skills are mandatory these days. So, hands-on experience on the various softwares. Demonstrated competence in written and oral communications is another objective, the communication skills. You want your students to work effectively, as an individual as well as member of the team. So those professional skills are required. And some social responsibilities, some professional responsibilities, some social concerns, and finally the lifelong learning. Now, when these are the broad, these things, these objectives you set up in your mind, based on that broad objectives, then you write down the, a set of statements which lead you to the what you call as the PEOs. And there is a systematic method of writing down these PEOs. You just make a committee or maybe draft it, and then you get inputs from your stakeholders, maybe through some meetings or through emails. And when you finalize these PEOs in some of your bodies, and then you see that whether there are some improvements to be there, maybe immediately or maybe even after some time, then the loop again goes back, and again you do all these things. So what I mean to say is that this formation of vision mission or maybe formation of PEOs is not just that 4 people sit together and formulate. So it has to be a collaborative process where involvement of stakeholders is very, very important. So a similar slide to the previous one. And then how you have to disseminate all these things. It can be in a print media, uh, say whenever you're going for some booklets, some brochures in the institutions, and maybe some lab manuals also where you can write down your course outcomes, or maybe the POs of your program. Then electronic media, this has to be known to all. So maybe on your website, maybe on your digital boards, so maybe in your documentaries. So all these things have to be there. And maybe another way, very important way, is that you display it at various places, maybe in various offices, various corridors, library, and so on. So these are to be a part of the as a best practice, that how you have to formulate them and how you have to disseminate them. Okay. So this is something similar to that I have shown you, that how all stakeholders and everyone is involved when you're formulating PEOs. So this is just an example that I wanted to show you. For a BTech program in mechanical engineering, what can be the POs? Just a reference one. Okay. Similarly, these can be the objectives of a bachelor degree in chemistry. So not naming them as POs, but naming them as say chemistry. So this I have taken from the UGC document of LOCF for the BSc chemistry. So this is what could be the aim of bachelor's degree program in chemistry. Okay, the last one you see, to enable the graduate students prepare for national as well as international competitive examinations, especially UGC, CSI or NET, UPSC civil service examination. Because we normally find that all our students are somewhere, even maybe after BSc or after MSc, they're going for NET, or maybe they're going for sales services. So unless we help them, that what is the things that are required for this examination, so I think it will be uphill task for them. So we need them in the objectives. Similarly, learning outcomes, or the program outcomes. So what your students should do by the end of the program, what you want your students to know. So these are the primarily dimensions of the program outcome or learning outcome for any program. Any program you want, maybe any BSc, any MSc, any BTech, MTech, MBA, you want your students must have knowledge. They must have, some amount of skill. The value and attitude is very important. The behavioral outcome is one thing which you want that all your students must have. So these are typically the dimensions of any program. This slide I have taken from NBA document, where they have defined that what are the program outcomes for any engineering program. And similarly, this is for the MBA part, that how outcomes are defined and how do you add up the PSOs, that is the program specific that I was talking about. So this is just an example that how PSOs can be there for maybe for easy program or maybe for MBA program. This is a program learning outcome. As I told you, the terminology is a little different. So this is for a UG program, in mass communication and journalism. So this is again from LOCF. So this is something what you expect, that at the end of this program, these should be the learning outcomes of your program. Okay. And when I talk about mapping the structure, that is how the cross-functional relationship should be there, which can be between the vision and the mission. Say your vision and mission have to be correlated, because the departmental vision mission is to be derived from the institution vision mission, and the program education objectives and mission must map with each other. Very important is the course PO or the COPO mapping. That is the course outcome and the program outcome mapping. That each course, the outcomes of those each course. Say for example, if there are 50 courses that you are teaching in a something like engineering program, okay. Now those 50 courses must lead you to at least one PO, because the purpose of teaching those subjects is towards you are able to achieve those program outcomes. So that mapping has to be there. And similarly, there has to be question paper CO mapping. So in each question paper, we must write down, we must ensure that how the questions are related to the CO and at what level the learning is there. So this is just a PO and PO mapping, educational objectives and outcomes. So you see they have to be related, because I told you that one objective can lead to you more than one outcome and so on, or vice versa. Okay. So this is how your mission and the PO statements are related. So you find in the slide on the first column you have got POs or the statements, and then you have got the mission statements M1, M2, M3. How they are connected? How this PO statement is related to mission 1, mission 2, mission 3? Is it at a higher level, medium level, or at a low level? And then you need to give justification. So this is something which is required in the mapping. Similarly, say for example, this is a mathematics course, undergraduate. So how this course PO mapping is there? You find that in the first column, POs are written for this particular program. So the one of the POs can be discipline knowledge, communication skill, critical thinking, problem solving. So how they are related to calculus, how they relate to algebra, differential equation, real analysis. The tick mark just shows that yes, there is a relationship, and this is the mapping between them. Now you can ask a question that why this mapping is required, because unless this mapping is there, you will not able to assess that how this PO has been assessed and what is the attainment level of these POs. So if you are able to see this some small font, that how in a question paper, how they are related. Say in front of each question, PO is written, that with which CO, with which course outcome this question part or the whole question is mapping, then what is the level of the Bloom's taxonomy, and how they are related with the PO. So this is something which ensures many things. Say the level of the learning when you are setting question paper has to be normal one. There are some questions which are of higher order, there are some questions which are simple one, and similarly the coverage has to be from the complete syllabus. So this basically helps in certain amount of assessment, that how the students obtain marks in a particular question, and then which level of your say which PO or which CO has been attained through this. Course outcome, as I told you, these are the statements which at the end of the course are required. So how at the end of the course what a student will be able to know. So say for example, if I write a course on electromagnetic engineering, so at the end of the course a student would be able to. So these 5 or 6 outcomes are there, and in each outcome you will find that there is a specific word which is related to the Bloom's taxonomy. Say compute, calculate, apply. So that is, this helps me to know that what level of learning is being imparted. Similarly, example on total quality management, TQM. Again, you find that there can be even more than one word. And another very important part is, it is not mandatory that the number of outcomes or the number of course outcomes should be equal to number of chapters. No, they can vary. Okay. Similarly, another example of financial and cost accounting. So these are the course outcomes that are written for this particular subject, or a subject like in LLB. So this is again from LOCF, that the subject like Introduction to Indian Legal System. What are the expected course outcomes at the end of the course? Fine. Maybe some training of the internship part. Okay. And this can be a complete document for something like, say, BA Social Work. So you have course objectives, you have teaching learning process. So it's a way of depicting learning outcomes are there and how the course is being evaluated. So these all are to be a part of our curriculum. So when you do assessment of these outcomes, assessment can be a direct assessment or an indirect assessment, which can be a midterm evaluation, or a quiz or a case study. So whenever we are giving marks primarily through some end semester examination or through sequential assessment, then you say that is a direct assessment. Whereas when you get the assessment of these outcomes through student exit survey or through employer survey, or through certain activities, then that is an indirect assessment. Say for example, I ask my employer, for my students, that how do they rate my students on the say knowledge part, say one of the POs, or how do they rate my students on teamwork. So that is another PO. So instead of I directly telling that my students have got a lot of coordination, teamwork, so let me ask some through survey, through some employer, or maybe some industry, or maybe the teachers through a co-curricular activities, that how these POs are being now assessed. So when you do it directly through marks, it is direct assessment. Otherwise, it is indirect assessment. Now, normally, when you assess these outcomes or the program outcomes, then you say that the credit of direct assessment can be as high as 80%, and for indirect assessment, you take the credit as the weightage as the 20%. So then you assess these outcomes. So then there are various ways of assessing them, and for all these things. So this is one for only for engineering. So I'm not going to detail for that. Maybe I will have some questions, and then this is how you find out the attainment of the course outcome. Once you have got your COs, once you have got mapping, what I will do is I will show you some part of the COPO mapping that I was talking about. Yeah, so this is something like a COPO mapping. So you have got course outcomes in the first column, CO1, CO2, and then you got these POs. So it's just a way that how this mapping is being done, that how this particular course outcomes are related to this particular PO, and on what scale. High scale is 1 to 3, 3 being the highest one. So you will find that there are many blanks in this dash. Yes, a single course outcome for a particular subject cannot lead you to all the POs, because there are many subjects that you are teaching. So PO is at the end of the program, whereas CO is at the end of the course. So you have to just do this COPO mapping, and then as I told you, assessment 80-20. So there can be various ways that can be done. So this is one way where you set up the levels, for all the attainment levels, and then you find out. And 80-20 ratio, as I told you. So accordingly, you find out that what is the level of attainment. So once you find out the level of attainment, then this can be one reference table. Then what is the CO attainment in this, and this is what you are talking about, the mapping. So when you correlate the two, you say that this is my PO attainment, depending on what was the mapping, and then how much is the weightage of that particular mapping on a scale of 3. So you just multiply it with CO attainment. So this is one particular method which is specifically being recommended by one of the accreditation bodies for engineering programs. And then you go for the indirect assessment, as I told you, through surveys, and then you see that when this complete is available to you, then you have 80% direct assessment and 20% of the indirect assessment. Okay, so this is how you find out the COPO mapping. So all these calculations are to be done in certain Excel sheets, and first time you might find them a little difficult, but then it forms a way of life for the teachers, and then for all the years you need to do this, and then find out that what is the PO attainment at the end of the level. Fine. So I just wanted to quickly finish it so that there is a time, 10 minutes are there, that how this whole concept of OB is there, and there are lot many things in which you can do. So I think I will leave this 10 minutes as per our planning for this question answers.
Thank you, sir. The participants have asked some questions while they are watching through YouTube streaming. I hope the question raisers Runu Bora, Padmanav, Bonnie Krar, Pranami, and Bonasri, Pulak Bhattacharya, Baby Paul, all are present in this Google Meet for interaction. You can just unmute your microphone and ask your questions to sir.
If I can take up from the chat box, they have written the question in chat box also.
Okay, sir.
So one question is, how do you differentiate between course outcome and program outcome? So as I told you, course outcome is the outcome of the course, that is the subject. So that is at the end of the semester. So when you list down those 4, 5, 6 points, those are so what is expected at the end of a course from the students, whereas program outcome is in general at the end of the program. So what is expected out of the students at the end of the particular program. So that can include various skills, knowledge, and other outcomes also. Then should we consider, this is a question from Mr. Chitendra Nath, should we consider learning outcome as a part of learning, learning output as a part of learning outcome, or both are independent aspect? See, here we are now concerned about the outcome. When you use the word output, so you are focusing, restricting yourself only to the numbers. But it is beyond those numbers, and we are more concerned about the outcomes of our learning, because outcomes of our learning go beyond the cognitive domain. They can go in the affective domain also, and they can go in the psychomotor domain also, depending upon the program. So I think yes, learning outcome is what we require.
Thank you, sir.
There were the two questions in the chat box.
Padmanav Sarpodar, please ask your question.
Hello.
Yes, please ask your question.
Okay. My question was regarding laboratory upgradation. So in most of the small institutions, there is a problem with the frequent upgradation of lab. So is it do you think that it is a hurdle while achieving the program outcomes?
No, it is not a hurdle. Rather, it should be an enabler. So when you see that new technologies are coming, and then they need to be imparted to our students, so the upgradation of labs is important. But your point is it is difficult. See, every then and now, or maybe daily, you cannot change all these things. So our purpose is to impart learning outcomes to our students. So that's why there are various ways of means. The first part is, of course, over a period of time, you must upgrade your lab. Okay, if it is taking time, then why not to take our students to the industry and show them those technologies? Why not to call industry people? Why not to refer to them certain SWAM courses, or the online methods where they can learn? Why not to refer them to the V labs? So I think there are various ways, where I think we must give all these inputs to our students. Exposure is very important. Unless they have got exposure, I think in field they are going to face problems. I think that's it.
Thank you, sir.
Baby Paul is here. Please ask your question. Okay, sir, please take the questions from chat
Or
box.
should yeah, so there is a question. Most of the time we see our examination system evaluates only cognitive domain of students. How does exam evaluate 3 domains? See, yes, we are doing direct assessment through examination. So that direct assessment is in the cognitive domain. But beyond that, we do have assessment through our lab practices, where you are going to assess their skill. So that is one part. That is a part of the psychomotor domain. Similarly, I have found in various curriculum in some of the universities, they have some marks restricted for their personality development also. So that can be assessed through a group of teachers, or the behavioral part, or maybe the affective domain can also be assessed when you talk about the surveys or the indirect assessment from maybe from the industry, maybe from the alumni, or maybe from the group of teachers. So yes, you are right. In examination, our purpose is that only to assess the cognitive domain. So that's why in examination, most of the part you will see this. Okay. Then there is a question. Some new questions are coming. Let me start from the top. Yeah, so there is a question from Mr. Garish. Do you think more funding support need to be realized mission? Yes, of course. As far it all depends on your vision mission. And for all these things, when you want to realize these things, appropriate funding, I would not use the word more funding, appropriate funding has to be there. Question from Mr. Shekhar Das from Cotton University. Difference between PU and PO, what is the way to write PUs for a course? See, let me answer your second part of the question first. How to write PEO for the course? No, PEO is not for the course. When you use the word PEO, that means you are talking about the program education objectives. So that is for the program. Say for BA or BSc or maybe MBA. So that is a program. PEO is for a program. It is not for a course or a subject. Difference between PEO and PO is that POs are the set of the objectives, and POs are the expected outcomes. That what do you expect? Say for example, when this in TLC they decided to hold this lecture, the objective could be to make you aware about the concept of the CO, PO, and such things. OB. The outcome is that at the end of the program, you should be able to write down the course outcomes. You should be able to evaluate the say POs. So that is the connection between the POs and the POs. One is at the start and one is at the end. PO is the expected outcome. Dr. Jhuma Das, can you tell me POs for the arts course? Yes, I have told you in one of the cases. I have shown you something about BA program, social work. So what I will suggest you, although I have also got that file, you just go to the UGC website and there are various templates for different programs, and you will definitely find one for BA is there that I have seen. So there you will find everything. Yeah, there is a question, sir. Can you please explain more about PO mapping, why it is required? So PO mapping is required primarily with the CO that I have been talking, because unless you map the POs and the COs, you will not be able to calculate, you will not be able to assess that for this particular PO, what all COs I have to take for the assessment. Say, if I say that one of the POs is through these 4 particular COs primarily, then I must know, because then the weightage is to be transferred. It's a complete mathematic part, so it requires little more time. So this is actually more into workshop. Then there is a question from, how do you achieve PO in practical subject during pandemics? Oh, see, these are some of the limitations, but yes, of course, we need to assess that how outcomes are there, how are you assessing them. Most of the times you are not able to meet physically, but then maybe through certain videos or maybe certain vivas. I think this is the way how we are moving about. Of course, there are limitations in this pandemics, but yes, as far as possible, you should use all these online methods. How do you incorporate POCs in technical? So, what is your amount of knowledge? Sir, see, this is something not only for pandemic. This is COPOs are to be there in technical education system. So, if you're talking specifically about technical education, regulatory body has given all the framework. Even the NBA has given all the framework. So, I think these are to be incorporated any time. And many of the institutions are already incorporated, which are going for NBA accreditation. Or you can refer to those guidelines or through the MBA, or also you can go through the model curriculum through AICT. So I think that's all.
There is one more question. It seems that the acronyms are increasing like anything, PO, PO. So do you really believe that without the sincere effort of the woman, man responsible, are these jargons going to serve any purpose? The question is from Mohammed Imtiaz.
Yes, that's why I told you that these are some of the terminology that must become a part of our teaching now. So I always suggest my teachers, when you go first time for the class for the new semester, please tell your students what are the COs, what are the course outcomes, and these are looking as jargons because we are not actually sometimes using them in practical. So I think they have to be incorporated now. They have to be incorporated.
And one is asking, how do we decide the level, high, low, and medium during PO or CO mapping?
See, when you see, this is of course a subjective part that is to be done by a group of teachers when you're talking about a particular subject. So I think teacher is the expert in that. So he or she has to decide that how this is being related. And of course, there can be some difference in opinion, but that's why I said it has to be group activity.
Yeah, excuse me, sir.
One is asking, UGC has notified
Last question I have
LCF
already
guidelines
answered.
for some programs. Do the university or college need to follow as it is, or can we modify it as per our need?
No, they're all the templates, they're all recommendations. So as far as possible, with the spirit is the same, you can always modify them. But those are
Excuse
the
me,
basic
sir.
templates, so you must take care of the various things in that. Yes, please.
Yeah, may I? May I?
Yes,
Yes,
please.
yes.
Yes. I'm calling from, I'm talking from Chennai, sir. It was a wonderful program. My question is I take for PG, sir. And in when we already have these PUs, PO and CO and all. In board of studies, one of the expert member told us when we presented the syllabus and CO to them in the meeting that for PG courses, the CO cannot be at the lower level. The objective of CO should not be, checking the lower level of Bloom's taxonomy. So is it correct? Like he said, you cannot have any objective that is about awareness or comprehension like that. It should always be third level, fourth level for a PG class. Is it so? Like my argument was suppose a new paper is introduced that a person has not studied in their undergraduation or something interdisciplinary in nature. What is wrong in having CO, which is at the lower level of Bloom's taxonomy? I hope you got my point, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I got your point. So I think your professor is right up to some extent only, but I have to add something to that. As you said, there can be certain new technologies, new courses where these things have to be given. Say, for example, if you are going for specialization of the PG program in something like electric vehicles, where normally in our curriculum those subject details are not there. So some of the specializations you have to go to the lower level in that case also, if something new. But because if you're talking about all those, the concept of production management, something like where those basic subjects is already there. So there you have to go to a higher level. But to some of the courses which are probably new to them, or maybe new technology, or maybe from some different discipline, then those concepts have to be given. I will give you another example. Say, as per our UGC framework and as per our CBCS, say if a student in MTech wants to study a subject from law, okay, from a law discipline, okay, or maybe some other discipline, which is very much away from your own program. So then, of course, the lowest level of learning has to be given.
Yeah.
So it all depends upon what is the type of the course. If it is from the same core conventional subject discipline, then of course, right, you cannot go to the lower level. But if it is something new, something from a new technology or something from a different discipline, then in that case you need to go in that case.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Wonderful.
So thank you so much. There are many questions I know. So
Yes, sir. In streaming also, some are repeated and
our time is already over, and yeah, some are repeated and some are many questions are there. But I hope holistically I am able to answer most of them.
Yes, sir. You have given a very fruitful session. I hope the participants have got very benefited from your session, and they have so many queries are still coming. And we hope if you watch the session again in YouTube streaming, this will be available. So you'll be able to, I think, know more about the idea of outcome-based education. And I would like to thank you so much, sir, for your very enriching session about, and there were so many clarifications they were actually seeking about this. So I hope that this is a very fruitful session for all. And sir, thank you so much for accepting our invitation and coming here for this session. And with these words, I would like to conclude this.
Thank you so much, and namaskar. Namaskar to all of you.
Namaskar. Thank you.